What's going on YouTube? Kirer93 here with a video tutorial for the Bak Riser. Now recently on my Palm Spin to High Tua video, someone commented asking if I could start doing aerial tricks or tutorials for aerial tricks. And I did say that they were coming, and this is the first of hopefully a few or a couple that should be coming in terms of the aerial tricks. Now the Bak Riser is a back combined with an aerial lift, as I'll call it. That's not really the technical term for it, but it's a back interrupted or into, no, it's interrupted. It's definitely interrupted by an aerial trick or an aerial push, whatever you want to call it. So before I get started, the Bak Riser looks like this. Of course, if you guys don't already know how to do the back or the Korean back around, go ahead and check out my video on my channel. I do have that. It's pretty old. I used a really goofy looking pen back then because I was just a noob. So go ahead and check that video out if you haven't already, and then come back here and we will teach you how to do the Bak Riser. So, like I mentioned, the Bak Riser is a back interrupted by an aerial push. Now, when I think aerial tricks, I think two things. I think first and foremost, control. You have to have extreme control over the pen and over your fingers and over the whole motion of what's going on. And aside from control, which is kind of generic for any pen spinning term, you need to have lift or actual hand and arm motion. So those two things, control and then upward motion, are the things you should be keeping in mind when you're doing this trick. So you obviously need to know how to do it back consistently, and you guys should know that when you do a back, there's a moment in time when the pen is not within the grips of your fingers, and at that moment in time, where's the pen? The pen is on the back of your hand, right? Now, this makes sense that when you do a Bak Riser, the reason why a riser or an aerial trick works so well with the back is because the pen's already on top of your hand at some point in time during the trick, and that's what makes for a good aerial trick. Obviously, if the pen is underneath your hand, you have to physically grip it and then toss it up in the air, which doesn't look all that great in terms of style points. So this allows the pen, after the back reaches about just over a quarter of a revolution, you should release it from its grips. And then once it gets to, I think it's normally after, for me, it's pretty much right after you let go of it with your index finger, that's when I bring my fingers somewhat closer together and then bring my whole arm up. Now, this is extremely controlled. This is how you have to be very controlled. For you to be able to catch the Bak Riser, you have to be able to time the revolutions in the air, and then you have to be able to catch it just like I did. Now, the Bak Riser obviously doesn't have to be caught like that. It can be caught, I suppose, like that in writing position. It can be caught in a number of different finger slots or positions, whatever. But in this video, I'm teaching you guys how to catch it like this. So again, very controlled. It can't be too wild because otherwise you might miss by a quarter of a revolution, which might end up resulting in you not being able to catch it. You have to be controlled enough so that you have to time both the rotational and the vertical motion. So again, that when the pen comes down here, is in perfect position for you to catch it. Now, I know that might sound a little bit daunting for someone who is not used to aerial tricks. The Bak Riser was, I think, my second aerial trick after the thumb around or TA to air trick or whatever. So I understand if you're not comfortable with this, but a quick exercise that I want you guys to learn is make a peace sign with your hands as in extend your index and your middle finger, place the pen on it, and then kind of bump the pen up in the air. Now, you don't have to catch the pen flat on your hands like I did the first time, but I want you guys to just get comfortable with the idea of tossing the pen into the air. Now, how high should you toss it? For me, I realistically don't go over a foot, which is 30 centimeters for those of you who use the metric system. So I don't really go above that height. The reason is because if I do that, I tend to lose control of the pen. I tend to not be able to time the revolutions correctly, and it's just a big mess, unless you're going for some sort of record, which at this point I'm assuming that you're not. But you generally need to have, well, you do need to have a lot of control because you're trying to control, in a way, you're trying to control the pen when you're not actually touching it, if that makes sense. You have to control the motion in the air, which of course you're not touching for it, you're just kind of waiting for it to fall back down. But what we need to do is work on our timing. So again, if you want to, this is a really, really beginner exercise for this trick. This is just getting used to tossing the pen up in the air. And this is not only that, but getting used to how much force and how much upward motion you have to put into your arm, into your hand, so that the pen goes up a certain distance. Now, this will vary for each pen, obviously. If you have something light, like a ball sign, it's not going to take as much force to pop it up in the air. But if you have a heavier pen, like a Bust or CYL or Dr. KT, for example, it's going to take more force up in the air. So just get used to the weight of your pen and how much force, how much upward force it needs to get it about however high you want it to go. I like to keep mine just barely off or just barely on camera, so that you can tell there's no editing trickery or whatever. But I like to keep mine just ever so slightly on frame, maybe a little bit off frame, but I like to keep mine at a reasonable distance above my hand. Now, after you've done that, try to combine it with the back. So you start with the back push or release, which is kind of flicking your hand outward a little bit. Again, outward being the back side of your hand, flicking it outward and releasing your fingers. But once it gets to the middle part, instead of letting it continue to the full back, once it's on the top of your hand, try lifting your hand up with that same amount of force that you generated when you're doing this exercise. All right? So again, do the back like motion to release the pen. Once it's on top of your hand, after it bypasses, after it's like halfway between quarter and a half of a revolution, go ahead and bring your hand up, and then you don't necessarily even have to catch it. At this point, we're just trying to get used to the motion of releasing it and then having it at least hit our hand. That's our main goal. If you are doing this so that the pen, I'm trying to mess up on purpose. If you're doing it so the pen ends up like over, this is really hard actually, over here or something like that, rolls off and outward or anywhere it doesn't hit on your hand, that's no good. You know you don't have as much control as you should. You want to pop this pen straight up into the air so that you can bring your hand straight back down, and then you know that the pen is going to land right there. So the pen should hit somewhere on your hand, preferably near the area, the finger slot, the position where you're going to catch it. Now for me, I catch it in the 1-2 finger slot, which is your index and your middle finger. So poor on my part. Like that. So I need to make sure I have my hand positioned ready to catch it. So after you've done half a back, I guess, and pop it up in the air, we need to learn how to catch it. Now, of course, this varies depending on what you plan to do next in your combo, but for me, I catch it pretty much like how I catch a shadow reverse. I kind of catch it like this, as I kind of clamp it between my index and my middle fingers. Now, how do we do this so that it's reasonable, so that we can catch it and then we still have control over it? Well, you may or may not have been able to see this with the normal speed videos like I'm doing right now, or the slow-mo, but I'm not actually timing it so precisely that when the pen comes down, it falls right into my fingers. That's great if you can do that, but that's generally not what happens. What happens is when you pop it up in the air, it spins, and then when it comes back down, it hits on my fingers again. It might hit here, it might hit like this, it might have a various angle that'll fall, and then after it we catch it just like a shadow reverse. We just kind of let it spin and keep on grabbing, and then just grab it. Now, like I mentioned before, it's very key that you don't pop it up in the air too hard, because if you do, the pen might bounce on your hand and then it might not be able to spin into that finger slot. So let's review. Back, interrupted, and then sorry for that mic bump. We have the pen, we release it, and then when just after it reaches a quarter of a revolution, we pop it up in the air and then try to get the pen to land on the back of our hand. Once we've gotten it so that it spins flat, we let it fall on our hands and spin more, and then close it so that we can pinch it. So of course, this takes a lot of practice, is a lot of control. But this is my video review for the Bak Riser. Hopefully helped you guys out. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe for more content in the future. I'll see you guys in the next video.